19 Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit.
Annie Othen. BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.
So I've been asking you this morning how you deal with cold callers. Well, on the line now is David Freedman, Managing Director of Confero, which provide call centres for different companies across the UK. David, good morning. Listening to some of our callers this morning, you are the devil incarnate.
Well, what a nice introduction.
I do my best. I do my best. No, I have to say, from the response we've had this morning, by and large, I think it was only one caller who said, hang on a minute, you know, these cold callers are trying to make a living like the rest of us, but the majority of people just don't like them at all. So where do you come from on this?
Well, from our perspective, we provide a service to businesses who are looking to talk to prospective customers about their products and services and to promote their products and services. And it's a route to market. It's a form of marketing, which is valid and obviously legal. Albeit that there are restrictions now around cold calling, which have become tighter over the years. But essentially, we're providing a resource to our customers to allow them to talk to their potential customers.
Okay. You deal with call centres in the UK.
We do.
Not with ones overseas or, you know, the offshore call centres.
No, we are UK-based, and very importantly, we abide by certain regulatory bodies. As a business, we're members of the Direct Marketing Association, for example, which regulates the call centre industry, and there's various codes and practices which members abide by in terms of the way that we talk to prospective customers over the phone. The polite times to call, times...
But you know, most people don't think any time is polite time. So how do you know, it's normally, I was saying earlier, it's normally when you have the fork poised at your mouth to take the first mouthful of your supper, and you can guarantee you'll get a cold caller. So how do you train your employees in the call centres not to annoy, irritate, and really rack off the people that they're phoning?
Well, we always look at all of our client calls as we're representing their brand, and that's very important. So when you're calling through to people and you're hoping that they will become interested in the product or service that you're offering, what we always train our callers to do is to remember that they are representing our clients, and our clients is a brand which they have sometimes spent millions or even billions on creating. And so when our callers pick up the phone to speak to someone, we generally will ask them if it's a good time to talk. We work through quite carefully constructed call flows, and frankly, depending on the brand, we will either be more persistent or less persistent.
I mean, some of them are very persistent, and some of them you just know that they are absolutely working. Then you hear, hello, Mr. Freedman, my name is Annie Othen. I help human resources departments keep their HR systems up to date. Do you have a moment to talk about how well your system is working for you? End of the day, it's not a proper human interaction. And some of them are rude, and some of them do put the phone down. And this isn't the respondent. These are the people that I've had, that they phone me, and I'm getting halfway through my sort of, I'm really sorry, I don't want to... And they've put the phone down. Presumably you're not training them to do that.
No, certainly not. And bearing in mind that, like I said, we are representing our clients' brands, that would hold no favours at all. And there are bodies like the Direct Marketing Association and the Information Commissioner's Office, for example, that do get regular reports of companies that are being persistently rude or are abusing their position in terms of the calls.
But how do you train? Because I'm
get a slap on the wrist or that sort of thing.
And quite rightly, David, I'm running out of time. But how do your employees cope when people are rude back to them, or people put the phone down on them? How do you train them to do that? Because I do think, actually, from the call centre perspective, it must be hell. I would hate to work in a call centre.
Do you know what, believe it or not, and maybe it's to do with the brands that we work for, we very rarely get anyone who actually puts the phone down.
Oh, come on. We've had a lot of people this morning saying they put the phone down.
Genuinely, we very rarely have that. It's down to the way that you handle calls, and I think that there are a lot of overzealous call centres, and particularly in terms of the offshore market, the traditional areas such as India and so on.
Do they give your guys a bad name then?
Very much so, and they have been a huge blight on our industry, which is why the regulatory bodies have come down so hard. Believe it or not, one of the big issues that everyone knows about are these silent calls, where you pick up the phone, you say hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And eventually someone comes through, and the reason for that is the automated dialers aren't running properly, and people
David, I'm going to have to cut you. I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off as well. Unless you can hang on. Hang on 2 ticks, because there's one more thing I want to ask you. Hang on.
BBC Coventry and Warwickshire. Travel you can trust.
Well, still the replacement bus service running on all London Midlands services between Coventry and Nuneaton. This is all because of ongoing vandalism at Bedworth. Elsewhere, no problems. Motorways, those are all clear, as well as if you're heading on the A45 in towards Coventry. So off the motorway through Allesley and into the city. No problems on the A46 if you're heading through Warwick. Leamington, Rugby and Stratford all okay. Though if you see a problem, call us on 08000 725 200.
Thanks, Kiara.
Travel you can trust from BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.
David Freedman, who's managing director of Confero, which provide call centres for different companies across the UK. Thanks for hanging on in there. The reason I asked is that we've had some calls for you.
Okay.
John has called from Westwood Heath. He says, how do you get our number when we're ex-directory?
Well, numbers appear on marketing lists. So if a caller is ex-directory, then the number can't be gotten from a normal directory inquiries type facility. But when people maybe fill in a survey or they agree for their number to be used for marketing purposes, then they then appear on lists, and effectively what they've done is opted in, and they've opted, which means that they've allowed for the company that they've completed the survey for example, to then either call them about something else or to pass the number on.
There really is not much point in being ex-directory these days, because our number, wherever we might give it, is sold on, and it's sold on to companies who operate call centres.
It's sold on with the consent of the recipient. There is another way to block you're being called, which is to register with the telephone preference.
Well, we've also had that as well as a question this morning, because some people have said that they are part of the telephone preference service, but they still get these calls from call centres.
To be honest, there would be 2 reasons for that. One is that they may have, like I said, opted in, so effective it's another marketing list, which effectively negates the telephone preference service, or it will be via an overzealous offshore call centre, which isn't regulated in the same way as UK call centres.
But briefly, David, call centres absolutely have a place in terms of marketing.
They're part of the marketing mix. One of the things that I was just going to say before the travel was that with these silent calls, just very recently in the last few months, the Information Commissioner has increased the fine for any companies, call centres particularly, to £2 million for abusing silent call regulations. And
quite right too, actually. Quite rightly too.
We agree, and we're firmly behind that as a business.
All right.
And things like that. Callers, recipients are being protected more and more from cold calling.
All right, we must leave it there.
Should have reduced.
David Freedman, I appreciate you talking to us, Managing Director of Confero, that train people for call centres across the UK. Like to hear from you. 0845 900 5200.
I'm in the phone booth, it's the one across the hall. If you don't answer, I'll just